Before we dive into this chilling story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're into tales that keep you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoyed this one, there's a whole playlist of haunting stories waiting for you. Stick around and let the mysteries unfold. Too good to be true, a nightmare that money can't erase. You know how they say if something seems too good to be true, it probably is? I never put much stock in cliches like that. I thought I was smarter, sharper, above falling for any sort of scam. But the experience I'm about to share with you has haunted me ever since. And I haven't told anyone until now. Not my family, not my friends. I wouldn't even be writing this if I didn't think you needed to hear it. I was in a rough patch. Rent was overdue, my bank account was on life support, and I was eating dollar store noodles for dinner. My last job had let me go 2 months earlier, and with the economy in the gutter, finding anything else was like squeezing blood from a stone. So when I saw the ad, it felt like a lifeline thrown from heaven. $2,000 per night, minimal work required, no experience necessary. I remember staring at it, thinking it had to be a mistake. The posting was simple, just a single paragraph buried in a long thread of other, more mundane jobs. It read, "Looking for a responsible night caretaker to oversee a private residence. Tasks include monitoring the property and ensuring everything remains undisturbed. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. $2,000 per night. Location provided upon acceptance. Must be discreet." Discreet, that word stood out, but I didn't care. $2,000 a night? That kind of money wasn't just a paycheck, it was salvation. My rent, my bills, even the looming threat of eviction, it could all disappear in 1 week of work. I applied immediately. No resume, no interview, just an email with my contact information and a short paragraph about myself. The reply came less than an hour later, an address and instructions to show up that evening. No phone call, no further details, just directions to a house in the outskirts of the city. I should have questioned it. I didn't. The house was unsettling. It sat at the end of a long, narrow road flanked by thick woods, the kind of place that seemed to exist in its own pocket of reality. As I pulled up in my beat-up car, the sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows that stretched across the driveway like skeletal fingers. The house itself was massive, 3 stories tall, with Victorian-style architecture that looked out of place in time. Every window was dark, giving the impression that the house was more of a shadow than a structure. I parked and made my way to the front door, the gravel crunching loudly under my feet in the silence. There was no doorbell, just a large brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. When I knocked, the sound echoed unnaturally, as if the house were hollow inside. No one answered. Instead, I noticed a small envelope taped to the door. Inside was a single piece of paper with instructions. "Welcome. Your duties are simple. 1. Remain inside the house from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. 2. Ensure all doors and windows remain locked. 3. Do not open the basement door under any circumstances. Payment will be left on the kitchen counter at the end of your shift. Good luck." I don't know what it was about that last phrase, "good luck," but it made my skin crawl. Still, $2,000 was $2,000. I pocketed the note, unlocked the door with the key left in the envelope, and stepped inside. The interior was pristine. The furniture looked expensive. Leather couches, mahogany tables, and Persian rugs that must have cost more than my car. The air was cold and stale, like the house hadn't been lived in for years. Yet everything was spotless, not a speck of dust to be found. I spent the first hour walking through the house, familiarizing myself with the layout. The main floor had a large living room, a dining room, and a modern kitchen. Upstairs were several bedrooms, all untouched. The beds made so perfectly they looked more like displays than places to sleep. But it was the basement door that caught my attention. It was located at the end of a long hallway on the main floor. Unlike the other doors, which were simple wood with brass knobs, this one was reinforced with steel. A massive deadbolt sat in the center, and scratched into the frame were the words, "Do not open." I didn't need to be told twice. Something about that door radiated wrongness. Standing near it made the hairs on my arms stand up. The air seemed heavier in that part of the house, colder. I locked it, double-checked it, and moved on. The first few hours passed uneventfully. I locked all the doors and windows as instructed and settled in the living room with a book I'd brought along. But around midnight, the noises started. At first, it was subtle, faint creaks and groans, the kind you'd expect in an old house. But soon they became deliberate. Footsteps, soft but unmistakable, moving across the floor above me. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. I was supposed to be alone. I grabbed the flashlight I'd found in the kitchen drawer and crept upstairs. I called out, my voice trembling. No answer. The bedrooms were empty, just as I'd left them. I checked every room, every closet, under every bed. Nothing. When I returned to the living room, the basement door was ajar. I swear on everything, I had locked that door. My stomach churned as I approached it, the heavy steel creaking slightly as it swayed in place. The air pouring from the basement was freezing, carrying with it a faint metallic smell that reminded me of blood. My mind screamed at me to close it, to lock it, to walk away. But there was a sound coming from below, a faint, rhythmic tapping. Against all reason, I grabbed the flashlight and descended the stairs. The basement was unfinished, concrete walls, exposed pipes, and a single light bulb that swung gently from the ceiling. The tapping grew louder as I reached the bottom, and then I saw it. In the center of the room was a chair, and on that chair sat a figure. It was human-shaped, but wrong. Its proportions were off, too tall, too thin, with arms that hung unnaturally long at its sides. Its head was tilted toward me, but its face was obscured by shadow. "Who are you?" I stammered. It didn't respond. Instead, it raised one long, bony hand and pointed behind me. I turned just in time to see the basement door slam shut. The lights went out. I don't remember how I got out. The next thing I knew, I was in my car, speeding down that narrow road, my hands shaking so badly I could barely keep the wheel straight. When I got home, I found an envelope on my kitchen counter with $2,000 inside. No note, no explanation. I've tried to move on, but the nightmares won't let me. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, convinced I can hear tapping. Last week, I found another envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just a note inside that read, "We need you to come back." I burned it, but deep down, I know it's not over. Whatever I let out that night, it's still waiting for me, and it won't stop until I return.